Welcome, everybody, to Cinema Royale. I am Travis Hobson of PunchDrunkCritics.com. And on this episode, we are talking The Beekeeper. This is Jason Statham's latest occupational ass-kicking movie. It's like the mechanic, the transporter, and now the beekeeper. Like eventually he's gonna be like the doorman or something like that. Like he's gonna make the rounds or the postal
No
worker.
one gets in and no one gets out.
Right. Right. And that voice you just heard is my buddy Chris Bumbray of JoeBlow.com. What's up, man?
Hey man, how you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm excited to talk about The Beekeeper because I don't know what I was expecting going in.
Yeah,
It's Jason Statham. You have a certain level of expectation for that. It's David Ayer, who's a filmmaker. I know a lot of people have issues with him. I like his movies
me too.
for the most part. He makes the kind of movies I like. Movies for men, muscular movies, action movies. These
Well,
are
and
kind
he
of
has a very good visual style too. That's the thing
yeah.
about him. Like his
But I
movies
don't
always look good.
yeah, but I don't know the last time he made a movie that was just a straight kick-ass movie like this. Like,
That was fun. Yeah, his movies I don't really think of as fun.
right.
So yeah.
Yeah, I don't normally think about his movies like that. You think of like Harsh Times and Street Kings and Bright and things like that, or Fury, which is I think is an underrated film.
I think it's probably his best movie.
I think it's probably his best movie as well. But this is the one I want to watch though. Like if I'm
Yeah.
gonna like if somebody says let's watch a David Ayer movie, I'm gonna pick The Beekeeper because this thing was off the charts awesome to me.
Yeah.
It was funny. I was talking to a friend and I was trying to get her to come with me to see The Beekeeper, and she was steadfastly refusing. And I
I get
was
it
like,
though. I
and I
get
was
it.
like,
Like
yeah, but
I
I was
didn't want to
talking
see
to
this
her.
either. I didn't want to see it
I,
either.
I
Yeah.
was talking to her and I was like, okay, come on, come see The Beekeeper. She's like, let me guess the plot. Jason Statham plays an actual beekeeper who used to be like some guy who could kick a lot of ass. And I was like, well, that's the entire plot. You're right. Of course, that's the plot. But, but there's so much more to it. This movie is
Well,
like insane wish fulfillment where he just beats up everybody that you hate. Telemarketers, scammers, elitist, spoiled, entitled rich kids. He just beats up everybody. And that's the
and
entire
it
movie.
goes
That's the
and it
point.
goes much higher than you'd think. Like it goes like
Yes.
it gets like it gets crazy. I mean, I didn't really want to see it either, to be honest, because I mean the thing is you and I have talked about Statham before, and it's not that I hate him. I'm burnt out on his movies because I find he always plays the same character and I find him dull,
And he makes
especially
a
the time.
lot of movies. And he makes a lot of
Yeah.
movies.
But it's always the same. He never, and he never takes a punch and stuff like that. But then, I think this was kind of the perfect Jason Statham movie, though. Like I wrote a little appreciation of it yesterday because I wasn't expecting much, and I just kind of went to see it because I was bored yesterday in the afternoon, and I loved it. And this is like the best possible version of a Jason Statham B movie that you could make,
Mhm.
right? Like it's like when I was saying, like Godzilla minus zero is the best possible version of a Godzilla movie that you could
Yep.
make.
Yep.
I think it's the same for this, the best possible version of a Jason Statham B movie. They had exactly a type of movie they wanted to make. It's 90 minutes, like almost exactly. It ends exactly when the fucking plot ends. It's done, right? There's no denouement, and
Right.
it's perfect. And it's Statham is less an action hero in this than almost like a slasher, right? He's almost like Jason, and
Yeah.
it's like a Chuck
Yeah.
Norris canon movie in that vein where the villains are like terrified of him the whole
Yeah.
time because they know he's coming to kill them and they know he's going to do
Yeah.
it.
And I
But I
love
was
that.
surprised because the fights are good and he's doing stuff in it that he hasn't done before. They're interesting. And towards the end, there's actually a good fight with a guy, and he actually takes a couple hits and he gets wounded and stuff like that. And it's a little bit more, a little edgier than you would usually get in a Jason Statham movie. So I was very impressed.
I like that they kind of built this whole mythology around the beekeepers. So the beekeepers are like this. They're this secret government organization, and their
That are
like job
above
is
the
to
government, though.
they're
Like they
above the government. They're
they they
like,
operate
like Jeremy
independently of
Irons,
this.
who Jeremy Irons to me, like every time I looked at him in this movie, he looks like he's befuddled that he's there. And he's
Yeah.
like he's in the movie and he's like an ex CIA honcho or former FBI honcho. And he doesn't even really know what the beekeepers
And
are.
so it's two British people that are in charge of the CIA, though,
It's
right?
all British folks. It's
It's
all
Jeremy
British
Irons
folks
and Minnie
everywhere.
Driver. It's
Right.
like it was
Right. It's
that
crazy. But
yeah, well,
but
it's like they're above the CIA, they're above the FBI, they're above the White House.
right.
Like
And their
just like
job is basically to protect people from the untouchables, right? The
yeah.
people who are corrupt and can't be reached by the typical arm of the law. And it's like so and based on what it sounds like, and I compared this to like Highlander in my review. It's like it seems like
Yeah.
there's like one beekeeper at a time. It's like one kid dies and like somebody else becomes a beekeeper, right? It's like that's what it seems like. And he goes off on a rampage when Claire Huxtable gets scammed.
And
Uh
I mean, I get it too. Like that's the perfect casting because like you
who
want
doesn't love
them to
Felicia
die.
Rashad?
Well, because
Who doesn't-
she's like a surrogate mother to all of us that
Yeah,
grew up in the 80s,
yeah,
right?
it's
We all loved
perfect.
her. We all saw her as like mom,
It's
and
perfect. You hate these people
yeah.
immediately for what they do to her. They empty out like millions from her
Oh,
bank account
oh, and then the charity for
and the
children that she
charity.
runs gets
Right,
emptied out. Like,
right. And then you see the guys who did it at this call center, and they're like exactly the guys you imagine he would be
yo,
over the
yeah,
phone. Like just total like douchebag guys, just woohoo. Like you imagine like the guys from Boiler Room are like sitting in there, like, woohoo, we got this
yeah,
old
and they're
lady.
like, "Fuck you, bitch," and it's like,
Yeah.
oh my God. And then like tech bros from hell. But then you watch like I just watched Bitcon on Netflix, and it's like this isn't that far from reality. And
Yeah.
I mean, the thing about the scamming, the online scamming is my parents and my grandparents were both victims of the same fucking scam that they have in the movie. And it's a real thing. Like people do get scammed that way, not on
Yeah.
the scale of this movie. I think they were scammed like $500 or something like that, but it's
I
still
got
something.
scammed. I got scammed once when I was like
Yeah.
at a time when I was like unemployed and I couldn't
Yeah.
find work, and I fell for one of those unemployment scams, desperate to find work.
Yeah.
You click on the link, and all of a sudden, hey, my bank account's at zero.
Yeah. Unbelievable. Like they really do, they really do kind of prey on you.
Mhm.
The only thing, I mean, the only thing about it is you can't think about it too hard because I feel like, you know, they're emptying people's bank accounts. There would be some kind of blowback for that, even if they're like as ultra connected as they are in the film. And I never understood why the FBI agent who's Felicia Rashad's daughter is trying to stop him in the movie. I didn't get it the whole time I'm watching it. It's like she
But
should be
in
like,
that kind
go
of
for
thing,
it.
though, she's
Yeah, fuck yeah.
born because in the beginning she's kind of like letting him go off and do his thing, and then it's like, but I'm an officer of the law and I need to stop him, and it's like she's kind of like in the middle. Ultimately, that character, which I like, Emmy Raver Lampin, who plays the character, I like her a lot, but that character just ends up kind of being the typical one step behind cop,
It was
you know?
funny though, like I do kind of like though it's as it keeps getting high as he keeps going higher and higher up the food chain because it's almost like it's more of a satire than people realize. Like I do think that it's a spoof of the John Wick movies, and I think that was completely intentional, especially if you read about the original script by Kurt Wimmer, which apparently is even crazier, but they left off a part of it for the sequel because like apparently it was supposed to end with beekeeper guys going up against each other and they actually fight with like honey and shit, but they left it because Ayer
Kind
said
of
on
glad they left
Twitter,
that
like
out.
that's for the sequel because they thought they'd gone kind of far enough with it as they did, but like it was
I'm kind of
like
glad they left that out.
that's kind of
That's
hilarious though, and it's like, and they say that like it's the mythology of the beekeeper is it's a spoof of the High Table, kind of like from John Wick, like it totally is. And the fact that it goes up and it's so connected and he keeps going up, and it's like the point that like he's like going after the fucking White House at the end of the way, like it's like nobody is beyond the reach of the beekeepers, right? Like the
right.
fact that I started when they reveal how high it goes. I started cheering in the theater, like holy shit! And it's like and it was
Well, in the
just
theater I was at, when it was revealed how high it went, everybody like gasped.
yeah,
Like there were like like literal gasps from people
yeah.
that were
You
like, I
don't
can
see it coming. You don't
no,
see you
nobody
don't think
sees
it's
that
gonna go
coming.
that far, and it totally fucking does. And
But
it's
everybody
completely
who's a bad guy in this movie is like a total caricature,
yeah.
right? It's
Oh yeah,
like
and you're gonna pay, and it's like
right,
they're gonna die horribly, and
right.
that's what's so funny about it. And I loved the guy Taylor James, who they got to play like the mercenary, who at the end is like
Yeah,
kind of a little bit better than everybody else, but and
he's a
he's
he's a
like
beekeeper killer.
Yeah, South African. And he's like, "You fucking
Yeah.
crazy, man." And he goes, and he's like a fake leg and stuff
I
like that.
bet he survived one. That's why I've got this leg. He's got a metal leg. He's like, dunk.
Well, and I love the way that, Statham ends up fighting him, just like fucking taking the leg off. Like that was, I like that he went there like that because he fights so dirty in the movie, and that's kind of why I really liked it, right? Like, and it was because he's like a serial killer. It reminded me a lot of Invasion USA with Chuck Norris. Like it felt like where the bad guys are literally having nightmares that Chuck Norris is coming to kill them, and then at the end of the movie he does.
Right.
And
Yeah,
it's
it's
kind
it's it's funny listening to all these people, like these higher ups in the government, like a beekeeper. Oh well, shit, you're dead, son. I
Yeah, you're
mean,
fucked. And it's like and even like
you're
to say
already dead.
nothing we can do about it. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's like you're already dead. So you just don't know it yet. It's like,
Well, and like when they're briefing the deputy director of the FBI, and then she says beekeeper, and it just cuts to him, and he goes like this.
yeah.
It's like,
it's so it's so ridiculous that it's just amazing, and I'm just like, I could watch this movie. This is one of those movies that's like a definite own, right? Like when
yeah,
it comes
well,
out.
but it's hilarious though. It's funny. That's
Yeah,
the thing.
it's
And
super funny.
everybody's in on the joke, especially like they got the perfect guy to direct it because he's like, let's just make a fun movie, right? And Statham is like totally tongue in cheek, like, and the fact that he's so straight laced in it and is kind of like because he can kind of do comedy because he did Spy,
Yeah.
and he is funny in this
He
movie.
knows how to make fun of his own like
Yeah.
persona.
And Irons is hilarious as like the most, I called them in my review the most frightened bad guy ever instead of frightening, frightened bad guy ever.
Yeah,
But I thought Hutchinson was amazing in this movie as like the bro from hell. He's doing lines of blow and he's just such a piece of shit. And
yeah,
I thought he ramped it up so high that it's like it
yeah,
was I thought he did a great job in the movie, which was,
yeah.
impressive.
Yeah, no, they did a really fantastic
And it's
job.
really well shot too. The cinematography is really good. It's got nice colors and and it was and it's and the fight scenes are really cool. Like it was just really well. It reminded me of like a cool 90s action movie. Like with the cool B movies we used to get in the 90s, like The Big Hit, where it would be like, every couple of
Mark
weeks we
Wahlberg,
get.
yeah.
Yeah, and they were like really cool movies that are like totally look
That's like
now.
that first DVD everybody had was like the big hit.
Yeah, yeah, me
Like
too.
everybody had the
I had
big
it.
hit.
I
Every
had it.
single person I ever knew back then had the big hit on
Yeah, me
DVD.
too with the Ben Ramsey and it was, yeah, I know, me too. I used to watch them like all the time. The Big Hit.
That's because the chicks in it were really fine. Like
Oh
Christina
yeah,
Applegate,
China Chow and
China
Christina
Chow,
Applegate.
Christina Applegate looked amazing in it. It's like, okay, yeah. So
And they had Avery Brooks as their
who
as
directed the big hit?
Kirk Wong, Chinese director, Hong Kong director.
Yeah.
He didn't do much though. He did Crime Story. He did The Big Hit, and then he did something else where he got like totally screwed on it, and he took his name off of it, and then he just quit because he was fed up. He did like a TBS movie with like Billy Zane, and he took his name off of it and it said like directed by Alan Smithy. And I think and I read an interview somewhere with like, yeah, he's finished. I think it was Terrence Chang, an interview with him because he produced all those movies, John Woo's producer. And he was
Wow,
like, yeah, no, he had a bad experience and he's just done. Forget it.
that sucks, man.
Yeah, because he did a great job in that movie. Because that's a really cool movie too. Diamond Phillips is great in it. Mark Wahlberg. But anyway, but that's why I like The Beekeeper though, because it is that kind of movie where it's
Yeah,
really tongue in cheek and it's fun. It's really well written by Kurt Wimmer. I kind of, I want to see a sequel, if only though if they have the same writer and the same director
same
back.
writer, same director, same tone.
Yeah,
I was afraid I was going to walk in this as going to be like one of those overly serious Statham fight action movies,
no, it's not at all.
which I was like, I like those too, but I like this kind better,
I
you
think
know.
if they do a sequel to this, they need to pick it up right where the credits go because it's not kind of his mission isn't really done at the end of the movie. So
No,
like you can because you can pick it up right where it left off and it
yeah,
could be
he
awesome.
has to pick up with whoever's left. Still
Yeah.
needs to get him.
Yeah, exactly. And they're all like he's planning on killing more of them. That's the thing.
Yeah,
Like he just kind of has to leave at the end. So it's like it's kind of perfect.
yeah. No, I totally saw this as anti, kind of like an answer to John Wick. I mentioned that in my review too. It was like it was became obvious to me in that gas station fight, like with the him versus like the current beekeeper.
Yeah, that
And
was
it's
fun.
just like it's just wildly over the top and ridiculous. And it's like
And then like such a
Gatling gun
sadistic,
at a gas station is like
and he
it's
like
like
sets her on fire, and it's like that's pretty hardcore for like an even for like an action movie. Like it's like, whoa, shit. Yeah, I was kind
yeah.
of surprised at how brutal that was.
I
You
don't
know,
know anybody in the theater because in the theater I was at, not only did people gasp when they realized what was going on, but there were multiple times when people like broke out into cheers.
yeah, me too. Me too. Totally. I think it's a crowd movie. That happened a bunch of times too.
Yeah.
Like where people were like it was because you hate the bad guys so much though. Like
Yep.
you want them to die terrible, terrible deaths. I even thought he didn't go far enough. I was pretty cold-blooded. Like
Good.
when he goes into the call center and he like lets people leave, I'm like, no, fuck, kill them all. Like it was
Right.
just kind of they know what they're doing. They all deserve to die.
Yeah.
But but I like the idea of the movie though, that like not only is he above the law, but he's above like the lawmakers who make the law. Like the beekeepers, they operate completely independently. And like I want to see a sequel where like you have like I think I told you Scott Adkins and Michael J. White as like
Right.
beekeepers, or like Van Damme and Snipes. You know, like have these legendary guys, right? Give
Right.
Chuck Norris as like the head of the beekeepers.
I want to see who started the beekeepers. Like who was
Yeah,
the
and Chuck
guy,
Norris. Chuck,
right? The guy
100%
who
Chuck
like
Norris.
who had the authority to make this and like and
Yeah, because
and
it
what?
goes beyond the president. Like, so it goes
Yeah,
like,
it goes
where
beyond
does,
everything. It goes
do they
beyond everything. It's
operate
so
in like
ridiculous.
in between countries too, or like they're beekeepers all around the world, or are they bigger
Right.
than? The way I say it, they're almost like the men from Uncle, right? Where it's like they don't they don't like no actual government has authority over them. Like
Yeah.
it's the coolest
Yeah.
thing.
Exactly. Exactly. Oh man, this movie was so much fun, man. I would love for like you and I to talk with David Ayer and like just pick his brain about the movie.
Yeah, I'm curious. I kind of reached out to him on Twitter. I'm hoping I hear back from him. I did. We had a guy interview him, and it's just like I don't know if the critic who saw it. I don't know if it wasn't Tyler, but I think the guy who did the junket. I don't know if he appreciated the movie as much as like hardcore action fans will. I don't know if he necessarily got what was happening there because it's just because there's a lot to unpack in this movie.
Yeah, I might reach out to David Ayer too because I feel
Yeah,
like he might be open.
I think he would be. I think he'd be down to talk about it, but it's
Yeah, to talking
kind of
about
interesting.
it.
I kind of like that
We won't
Statham
ask him
hasn't
any.
really
We
been
won't
doing
ask him
press
any
for it
Suicide
though.
Squad questions or anything. We'll just talk about this.
I kind of like that Statham hasn't been doing interviews for it though, because it's like he should just stay quiet. Like I like that, like the character would, where you don't really say anything to
Yeah,
diffuse it. And but I even wrote my review like if this got a sequel, and I think it could because it's doing pretty
it's
well at the
doing
box
well. Yeah,
office.
it's doing well.
It could be like his Rambo, like his iconic character. It's the best he's been for me as a character probably since the Transporter or the Crank movies.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of liked him in the mechanic. Um,
Well, a lot of people like the mechanic too, but I don't know. I just never it never was a huge like I liked the first one. I hated the second, but I kind of liked the first one, but it was never
second one had Ben Foster, didn't it?
it was the first one had Ben Foster.
First one had Ben Foster.
Second
Okay.
one had Jessica Alba
Yeah,
and Tommy Lee Jones phoning it in.
yeah. All right. Yeah. I can't remember the Mechanic Resurrection all that well, so I
That was
remember.
the mechanic reservoir. I feel like this movie though is gonna do well in North America, but it's gonna be huge overseas. And it's gonna be one of those movies because it's Amazon, right? Like it's gonna become, I think, a massive streaming hit for
Oh
them.
yeah, David
Like it's because I'm gonna
Reacher
stream it a bunch of times when it comes out.
Reacher fans definitely are going to want to watch this.
Yeah. I'm gonna stream it a whole bunch when it comes out. But it's like it's funny though. There have been two really decent action movies in the last few weeks. The other one, we talked about a little bit was the Bricklayer with Aaron
Yeah,
Eckhart, which I thought was very
yeah,
decent.
yeah. It was. I think it was the best Rennie Harlan in a long time, actually.
Yeah, and it was just like I like I like that kind of action movie too, where it's like fights and and like it's not too over the top. Like I mean, Beekeeper was totally over the top, but it was
Oh
over
yeah,
the top in a way that I haven't seen in other movies. Like the fights that he was doing, and I was reading an interview with Ayer, and it was kind of interesting, where it was like Statham was really focused on making it different than his other movies. So he basically put the kibosh on any move that he had done in another movie. Where he's like, no, I can't do this because I did this in this other movie.
yeah,
So it all had to be fresh and new. And the action scenes keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger as the movie goes on. And it got to the point like I couldn't wait for the next action scene.
yeah. It does seem like everything kind of escalates, which is
Yeah.
exactly how it should be. So yeah, I totally agree. He does need there's going to be a sequel. He does need like, and I like Taylor James, and I liked his character, and I thought he was hilarious. But I really want to see him have like a really epic brawl against like a names like fighter or
Yeah, he
something.
needs to go against like honestly like a Scott Adkins or a Michael J. White, a guy that could really go toe to toe with him, and you're like, okay, they're equal, kind of.
Yeah, totally, totally agree. It's so ridiculous. Like even like all the allusions to like B culture and all that kind of stuff. It's just so silly.
It's
And
so silly, but it
it's so
works though.
silly. It
That's the
works.
thing.
It works. It
So
works. And I was laughing the entire time while I was acknowledging how silly it is.
it's
So
so
yeah, it
dumb.
works.
It's
I loved
like
it.
it kind of goes full circle. It's like when I used to tell people like, when Prince would act super effeminate and it would be like he's acting so effeminate that it's actually ultra macho. Right.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing where it's like this movie's so dumb that it's actually smart.
This is what you do when you go out on dates. That's
Yeah,
you.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Because
yeah. It works for Prince.
do
Works for Chris
360. Like Prince, I'm gonna cry for you now. And it's just like beautiful.
Oh man, this has been a blast. The Beekeeper is a blast. I was debating whether or not I wanted to go see it again today. I think I'm gonna hold off. Um, but maybe try to squeeze it in before we fly off to Sundance in a couple of days. Are you excited about Sundance this year? We haven't really had a chance to talk about that. Are you
I
excited
am.
about
I'm pretty
anything at
excited. I mean,
Sundance?
I'm not. There's not a whole bunch of movies that look great to me, to be honest. But I'm curious because there's going to be stuff that'll come out. There's going to be the new Steven Soderbergh that'll be interesting. I saw the TV Glow looks pretty cool. I Freaky Tales I'm interested in because of the cast. So and some of the documentaries like the Christopher Reeve documentary. And the Luther Vandross documentary and the We Are the World documentary, I'm very interested in. So,
Yeah. I don't really want to see that. I really want to see it. I want to see them do a documentary on If You Only Knew. This was the WWE song that they did right around the same time as We Are the World, which is like all the wrestlers got together.
wow, they must have been beautiful.
It was I was reminded of it because somebody like played a clip on it on video on Facebook, and it's on like one of those nostalgia wrestling pages that always pop up on my feed. And I was like, I haven't heard this song in at least 30 years.
We did
And I
a
was like,
there was a Canadian version too with like Corey Hart and Neil Young
yeah.
and like they were just everybody was doing that like the
Well,
voices that
when
care
I
and
was a
everything.
kid, I thought the wrestlers were actually singing that song. And then
Thank God they weren't.
and then I was watching the video and I was like, this is like some really generic singing. And I know that's not the Macho Man singing right there. But when I was a kid, I was completely convinced that the WWE roster had the voices of angels and they could sing. They could
I
sing.
just watched
They
a
could
I
sing on
just
the same
watched
level as We Are the World.
I just watched a documentary on NWO for WCW WCW NWO. Have you watched that yet? That was
Yeah,
pretty
I
interesting.
haven't. You should go
Oh,
on Peacock and watch those ECW on TNN episodes.
Oh, interesting. I've been watching on Paramount Plus. They have all the biography episodes of like the WWE. It's basically WWE's answer to Dark Side of the Ring, where it's like the company line version of all of them.
Mhm.
And they're still like they're pretty interesting. They're not as good as Dark Side of the Ring, but
Let
they're
me,
but
let
they're
me know. Let me know when they get around to the Chris Benoit one.
yeah, I'm sure
Not
that's
gonna happen.
yeah, sure
Not
that's not
gonna
happening. Yeah,
happen. Let me
exactly.
know when
Or
they
an
get to
Owen or
the.
the Owen Hart story. Like that. I
Let me
feel
know
like
when they
some
get
of
to
the
the.
stuff there
Let me know when
never
they get to
happened.
the Vince McMahon steroid scandal one. Or
Vince McMahon, the one
Vince
thing about all the
McMahon.
WWE sanctioned biographies, Vince McMahon comes off as the best boss and the most wonderful guy, and he's so dignified in his like in his interviews. I like though. I prefer the Dark Side of the Ring. Like it was the one where they were on the plane ride from hell, and they were all getting fucked up, and it was that was a good one.
That was a really good one.
New
And
Jack.
it's one of those stories that I had heard of like my whole life, but never knew all the details. So listening to it is kind of funny because wrestlers will always allude to stuff like that.
Yeah.
They allude to it in interviews, but never really talk about it. But they allude to it. It's like just tell me what it is. So yeah,
I like New Jack when his scars on his head. It's
yeah,
like that guy.
yeah. I witnessed a lot of the New Jack stuff, so I know how bad this shit was. Oh yeah. Oh man. Anyway, this has been amazing. Talking about the Beekeeper.
You know who could be the head of the Beekeepers? I was just thinking Denzel Washington, the Equalizer.
I see that.
Could do
I see that.
crossover.
That's wish fulfillment for you right
Do
there. That'd be amazing.
crossover.
That would be.
He'd be the only one who could take down a beekeeper in the sequel. It's like Beekeeper, and he's like, Beekeeper, eh? He just kind of raises an eyebrow.
And then you realize
It's like,
he's from an organization called the Wasp Keepers, and
yeah,
they
yeah.
just like
He's the next
just
level up. Yeah, he's like the
right.
next level. He's part of the Hornet's
The
Nest.
Hornet's Nest. Yeah.
Yeah. One level up from the beekeeper. And it's like
You didn't know
him
there was
and
a
like
you
the
didn't know
next,
there was a level above the beekeepers,
yeah.
like
But that'll
downs it with
be
like one
like
punch.
that'll be the next tier of action stars. So it'd be like Denzel and like Stallone and like Schwarzenegger
Right.
with a post it with a photo of Bruce Willis in the back, like and a candle in front of it. Like that'll be the next echelon of
Oh,
like the beekeepers. Like but Statham's like the top of the B guys, but then the A guys, Harrison Ford is is hanging around.
did they ever say why he stopped being a beekeeper, his character?
I know, not really. They kind of left it obscure. I'm sure that I mean, I don't even know if they need to get into it. Like he just didn't want he just didn't want to. And then it was like, but I love that he was like it was so funny too, where he's like, she was the first person that ever took care of me. And there was this girl in the theater. She was like, oh. I was like, that's why I knew the movie was working. I was like, oh yeah, this is perfect.
Yeah. Oh my God.
This
People were
Claire
like,
Huxtable, the fact that it was Claire
Huxtables.
Huxtable,
Who
and she's like
doesn't
so
love?
like
Everybody loves Felicia Rashad.
yeah,
Everybody
she's like
loved it.
this
So it's like
saintly figure, and
watch
it's
her
like
get watch her get ripped off. People are in the theater like, no, no, no. Like when
I
she's
know,
like,
and
don't.
she's like this an ex-teacher, and she runs a children's charity. She's like literally like has like a halo around her head, like as soon as she shows up in the movie. But it's such perfect casting though, because yeah, you want to see these fucking guys get killed, especially the guy who runs the call center who gets like his fingers cut off.
Oh my
Like
God, that guy got
that
fucked up.
guy.
Yeah, yeah.
But also that's why I kind of admired Josh Hutcherson though, because he goes so far, like so out there with like the asshole behavior. Like I feel like anybody else would have probably toned it down. Like I don't want to be considered too unlikable, and he was like, "Fuck it, whatever."
Yeah, it's exactly perfect. Exactly perfect. Oh
Yeah,
man, this movie's great. We cannot recommend The Beekeeper highly enough, and we hope there's going to be a sequel. David Ayer, if you happen to be watching, we want to talk to you about The Beekeeper and the future of The Beekeeper. So come on the show and let's talk about it. All right, man. Chris, you got anything coming up at Joe Blow? You're gonna be at Sundance with me in a few days.
yeah, just a lot of reviews, man. A lot of reviews coming. I'm continuing though my I'm doing my deep dive into the Naked Gun series. I just
Oh,
recorded two and a half the other day.
oh God, really?
Yeah, yeah.
You're gonna skip the third one, right? You're just not
I
getting
love the third one. I really like the
Hey,
third
get the
one.
hell out of here. All right, we're gonna just end this
Just watch it
episode right
again. It's
here.
fun.
End this episode right here with
Yeah,
Chris saying he likes the third Naked Gun.
I do.
Thanks to everybody for tuning in to Cinema Royale. I'm Travis Hobson. You can find me every day at punchdrunkcritics.com and a bunch of other places you know where to find me. All right, thanks again, everybody. We'll see you again soon. Go check out The Beekeeper. Goodbye. Thanks for checking out the show. If you like what we're laying down, please subscribe to our channel and click the bell to receive notifications for all of our latest stuff.